Okay. Kaylin, was that you just admitted?
Yes.
Yes, that's me. Thank you.
Okay, great. Perfect. All right. So I think we can begin. Do we know if let's see. Do we know if Sandra was able to get in? Let's see. You're on now. Okay, Sandra's on. Okay, good. All right. I'm going to record this meeting so that we can replay it, have it set for everyone later. Hang on just a moment. Let me get that started. Okay, the recording has started. Great, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is John Masurgeon, and I'm with our corporate communications group at Central Hudson. And we're here tonight to present on our training academy and primary control center that's under development here in the town of Ulster. The facility is quite important to our operations here, and we believe it will provide some many community benefits. During the construction process, of course, we understand that can be disruptive, and we're here to explain what we're doing, why it's important, what our timeline is, and then also to hear your questions and your concerns. So I suggest that we allow the presentation to take place first. Dan Oliveri, our project manager, is going to go through a series of slides. Let's allow him to complete that presentation, and then following the presentation, we can take some questions. So I'll turn it over to Dan, and he'll go through the slides with you, and it'll give you an overview of the project and what our anticipated timeline is. So Dan.
Thanks, John. Just echoing what John said, thank you all for coming and taking this evening to spend with us and learn about this project. I'm just going to run through pretty much a site overview and discuss the individual components of the site, what we're doing now, what we have planned over the next few years. So starting with our site plan overview, just to give everyone a layout here. North is to the left of your screen, Eastern Parkway. South is our existing Central Hudson location. To the east is 9W, and to the west is Glen Eyrie. As you can see, all traffic will be coming through our existing site into our new site along this roadway that we will be constructing, and will connect to Eastern Parkway, which will be used for emergencies only, for fire department access and so things like that. So hopefully never. But coming into the new site, south and north, eventually when it's all completed, you will drive by parking lots, and then you'll see our primary control center and our training academy side by side. Keep following the road past our Annex on the left, and you will pass our gas village on the right. And continuing following the road up, we have our electric training area. So I'm going to talk about each of these ones in detail in a little bit, but just talking about what we're doing right now. So our site work construction is scheduled from 2021 to beginning of 2022. Hopefully we'll be done very beginning in January. As you can see, the yellow is what we will not be constructing currently. So we're excluding the buildings and the finished parking lots. So we are doing site work, utilities, drainage, roadway construction, as well as building our gas village, which is here, free dig area for excavator training and practice, and our electric training area and URD and solar area. So just going through our construction schedule a little bit, grading is ongoing, and that will continue to the end of the year. That's leveling the site, making it a useful site, separating and stockpiling material. We're going to begin installing our utilities. We've already started to install drainage and water. We're looking to start electric next month. Blasting is, I know, on everybody's radar here. So we needed to do this to eliminate the large outcropping of rocks that were throughout the site, to install our drainage structures and detention basins. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, rock blasting is anticipated to continue for another 2 weeks. But our construction manager is trying to shorten this duration. We have also began constructing our gas village buildings, pouring our footings and our walls. So going back to our site plan, we'll start with, you see the circle to the south, that's our gas village again, and the electric to the north.
Hey, Dan, I'm sorry. The question was asked where the Bread Alone building is, so maybe we can just point that out.
Bread Alone is right there. Yep, sorry, I can't see the chat, so.
Don't worry.
Yes, Bread Alone is right there. So looking at first the electric site on the north side, this is a place for our electric folks to practice, climbing poles, working on smart devices, switches, capacitors, everything that goes into running our electric grid. Our underground training area is for URDs and underground electric work, and we'll have a solar area to provide training and possibly power the facility in the future. The gas area has a free dig area, an excavation pit, and a small gas village to conduct training and emergency response procedures. The actual gas village will consist of 6 of these small residential buildings, and when I say small, that's a 10 by 12 structure, so nothing more than a small shed there. One more larger apartment building, which is 12 by 20, and then a larger commercial building, which is only 20 by 40. So these are all very small buildings that will be used for training. Moving into our stormwater management, we have an approved SWIP plan in place that was approved by the town, and we're following all DEC requirements. We are using a collection of stormwater management practices to control flow and keep as much water on site as we can, including grading, swales, drainage pipes and structures, culverts, detention basins, and bioretention areas. So our design was designed to control water and to keep it on site more than pre-construction. So at the end of this, we will be keeping more water on our property. You can see just from our stormwater plan, I just wanted to throw this up. The smaller red arrows are pretty much surface flow. You can see by the grading, it's all getting directed to the center of our site where it's collected in swales and deposited into detention basins after passing through drainage and culverts and the like. So the water will then sit in the detention basins and slowly leach into the ground and evaporate into the air. This is just a southern view of our site, showing the same thing. The smaller arrows again are surface flow, and the larger arrows are drainage structures. Site lighting. So we're going to have some exterior lighting along the roadway and parking lot. These consist of small downward-facing post-mounted LED lights. These lights only illuminate down, and they are also provided with motion sensors, which will dim the light to 50% when not in use. As far as views from Eastern Parkway, we wanted to touch on this. Our plan right now is to construct a earthen berm behind the existing tree line to provide additional cover. In addition to here, we're looking to kind of wrap it around and put it on either side of that emergency exit to close that up a bit as well, so you won't be seeing in down through that roadway. We are also discussing and looking into the possibility of running the same kind of berm along the railroad tracks, depending on site conditions, elevations, and constructability. This is a view of the berm that we're building. The existing trees are not there. This is just showing the berm. This next is showing the berm with the trees. So you can kind of see the trees in the background, and it's hopeful, in a couple of years that they will be up a lot higher and filling this space even more. So just talk about the buildings a little bit. So we're going to be moving forward with buildings in subsequent phases. Our primary control center is scheduled to go first. So that is this red circle down here. If you look at this drawing, our primary control center, the PCC, was designed to be pretty much attached to the training academy, almost one building footprint, to share efficiencies and synergies and the like. So this PCC portion will be constructed first. Construction is scheduled to begin mid-2020 and continue till 2023 when construction will be complete. However, the building will not yet be in service until the end of 2024, as the building needs to be tested for a full year before occupation. What the PCC is, it's pretty much the brain of our electric and natural gas transmission and distribution systems. You can operate all of our smart devices, our remote operated valves. The outages are handled through this, electric outages, natural gas emergencies. So this building is going to include both transmission system operations and distribution, as well as emergency management systems and distribution management systems. So this is a PSC mandated building. It really is the brain of our system here, and it will be in operation 24/7. It's going to be staffed by anywhere from 4 to 6 people overnight, and during the day it will have approximately 20 to 25 occupants. So the overnight will just be bare bones skeleton crew. Schedule on that, as we already talked about, to be completed 2023, and then another year of testing before that is in service there. This is just a floor plan looking down at what our PCC is. We have our transmission and our distribution controllers here and here. That's pretty much the 24/7 area. All these exterior offices and bathrooms and the like will not be in use, just daytime only. And most of the building, due to its technology requirements, are data centers, computer rooms, mechanical rooms, and the like. So that's what a majority of this building is. We need to provide multiple redundancies in case something happens in order to keep the electric grid operating. The next building that's intended to be built is we call the Annex, and it's right there next to that building behind the PCC. So the building is a utilitarian building. It's got a lot of wide open spaces, similar to a warehouse, and it allows for different sorts of trainings with different groups, and allows for trainings during inclement weather and winter months. That's scheduled. We're looking to start that mid-2024 and complete schedule by end of year 2025 on that building. Again, this is just a conceptual floor plan showing the large open spaces that will serve as training areas for our different groups. And the final building that will be built is our training academy. And this is going to be attached to the PCC, as we talked about before, and it is used for pretty much large meetings and trainings. There's classrooms, auditoriums. We could use this for any number of things: trainings, safety briefings, fire department trainings, local schools, classroom education programs, and the like. So the construction schedule on that is looking to tentatively begin mid-2025 and be done by year-end 2026. And again, these other two buildings, the Training Academy and Annex, will only be occupied just during the day, normal working hours. So here's a picture of the Training Academy showing the classroom spaces, the training rooms, and the conference rooms associated with that. Here's just kind of our overall construction schedule with a lot more details for our phase 1, because that's what we're doing right now. but the look ahead through the end of the project. There are a few benefits to our neighbors. We have enhanced electric service reliability. We're going to be reconductoring Eastern Parkway, so you will definitely notice that your outages will be less, if you're living on Eastern Parkway and Glenary. We also provided a loop for the local water, for the town water, so if there is a break somewhere, we can pump it through our yard and water can continue to be delivered. Of course, taxes and jobs, needless to say, and then patronage to area businesses. So that's pretty much the nuts and bolts. I'm going to turn it back over to John, and I guess we'll field some questions.
Yep, thank you, Dan. Thanks very much. So that, again, is an overview of the site with the project schedule. It is a multi-year project, but we will be very sensitive to the fact that we are working in areas where you can hear and see what we're doing. I think in the end, though, we're going to have a facility that's going to be well shielded from the neighborhood, and it should have just minimal impacts to where you live as compared to what's taking place now. But I will welcome some questions. For those of you new to Teams, you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, the red, just to the left of the red leaf box, there's a microphone and there's a camera. So if there's a slash through the microphone, if you click on it, it'll unmute you and you'll be able to ask questions. So we'll see how this goes. I mean, I don't want to have to necessarily call on anybody, but if you do have a question, just be courteous of everyone else and please go ahead and ask whatever questions you'd like. And I think Wayne has a question about the slides, whether they're going to be available. This presentation will be available on our website. It's at centralhudson.com. You can click on About Us and then Projects, and then you'll see a link to this project. We'll have the slides for this presentation on that site probably tomorrow, and we'll also have a recording as well of this meeting on that website. And Kaylin, you have a question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me? I have a few.
Yes.
So just so you know our plans.
We are recording basically, and we want to make sure that every neighbor along Glenary has the chance to view the presentation. And I thank you for that. But obviously you've mentioned a lot of different things and it has their own sort of concerns and questions. And so I think after speaking to the Glenary delegation, we'd like, to get together as a group and then come back to you and present things in a way, in addition to whatever comes out tonight. I think, there's a lot to absorb here. So I just wanted to mention, that you will be getting a response from us after people have had a chance to view everything.
Okay, very good.
And this is just more sort of technical. First off, the blasting is really disappointing, specifically because you had sent an email last week saying it was done. You go one more week, and now we're adding another 2 weeks. So I understand things happen and rain and everything.
Yeah, we're very disappointed. In that
it's
yeah.
You hear me?
Agreed.
Hold on. I'm not hearing you.
I said we agree.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Hello?
can hear you. We can hear you.
Can you now? Hello?
We can hear you. Hello, we can hear you.
Can you hear
Yes.
me? I can't hear you.
Oh.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Sorry.
So I'll be sure. I obviously need to call back in so I can hear people. Disappointed about the blasting. I want to hear about the grading and what that means. Daniel mentioned the grading. And then also in terms of noise, and then also in terms of lighting, looks like as far as the entire site. So, you know, maybe you could speak to that.
Sure. Dan, can you talk a little bit about that?
And I'm not hearing you.
It's on the, she had questions on the grading and lighting.
Yeah, what specifically about
Welcome to the audio conference.
Okay.
Please enter a conference ID, followed by...
Am I back? Are you back?
I can hear you.
Please can't hear you.
Oh, try the phone.
Hold on, I'm dialing in so I can hear you.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, so I can hear you now, if you want to speak to all that.
Yep. So when you're on the phone, here, wait. Can you hear
I can hear you
now?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
so mute your computer audio, and then that way we won't have any feedback.
Okay.
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 Good. Yep. We're
Okay.
good. So the question on the grading, the noise, and lighting. I think the lighting question is whether the entire facility will have lights or if it's just going to be by the main parking area.
the lights run along the roadway?
So along the roadway leading to the parking area,
And yes,
and then just the parking area. So that'll just be
Yes.
in front of the primary control center, the training building, the first main buildings that are on the site. So the lighting will go from the existing Central Hudson facility along that roadway to the parking area that's right in front of the main building. And I think that's all.
Okay.
And then some questions about grading, maybe how long that's going to be taking place.
The noise.
The noise. The noise.
Hey, John,
Yeah,
this is Don. I just want to mention that it is dark sky lighting, so it is not going to be reflecting up into the sky. It's subtle lighting.
Thank you, Don. Don is
Great.
one of the engineers that worked on
Great.
the plans.
Thank you.
and yes, grading, you know, we should be finishing that up in December. So that,
What does that mean, though? Is that
will-
drilling?
What does that mean, though? Is that drilling like 10 hours a day?
no, that's not drilling. The drilling, that 10 hours a day of drilling will be done when the blasting is complete. That grading is you're just pushing around dirt and
Great.
leveling the site and, you know, just kind of making it flat, moving dirt around pretty much, compacting.
But that
roll.
also means.
But that also means
Correct.
beeping, correct?
That does mean
So-
beeping.
Right.
So
We'd like to revisit that in a couple.
we'd like to
weeks.
revisit that in a couple weeks after you have your OSHA meeting.
Yep, we've spoken with DOT, also with the town of Poughkeepsie. They each have a limited use of the white noise backup alarms, primarily on their loaders. And then we're going to be testing them on site as well. You know, bear in mind that these vehicles are not owned by Central Hudson, but we're going to be speaking with our contractors about the potential, the possibility for using them if we all feel that they're safe, you know, for the workers there. But it's definitely something we are pursuing. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? What is being done? A question from Wayne here. What is being done? Oh, Wayne, it disappeared. Let me pull it up. Sorry. What is being done with the pond on the southwest portion of the site? Is there drainage off-site to the creek?
There is an overflow from the ponds in the event of, you know, a 100-year storm that would control the outflow of that water.
Yeah, I think the intention here is to keep as much water on the site as possible. I think any of the overflow facilities meets all DEC and Army Corps of Engineer requirements, correct? Yeah.
Yep.
Is the pond connected to the new drainage?
Is the pond? No, the new drainage stops in our detention bases, and from there, there's an overflow in case that a 100-year storm comes through and it fills up that pond. It will overflow and continue to follow its natural path.
And where does its natural path lead?
I believe there is an outlet and it goes under the CSX tracks.
Into the Esopus? Into the creek, or?
I believe it is
Yeah.
into the creek, yes, but again, this would be under very unusual circumstances. The net outflow from the site, once the stormwater plan is put into place, is expected to be less than what it was before we started any of the work.
Correct.
So it was the outflow from the site is expected to be less than there was before the site plan, before the site preparation began.
John, Larry Pkwy can answer this. The site civil engineer can answer this more directly than I can, but it's going to range from 13 to 100 cubic feet per second less water leaving the site. So it's substantial. It's a significant amount of water less leaving the site post-development than pre-development.
Oh, go ahead.
My name is Lanny Walter. I'm from Saugerties, but concerned. What sort of coating is on the parking lot and the surfaces around the buildings?
So we have our parking lot, which is, our asphalt parking lot, concrete sidewalks, and most of the area is just grass.
So the parking lots won't be porous surfaces?
It will not be pervious pavement, but it will be leading to one of the 3 detention basins that will be restricting flow off-site.
Well,
The problem that we oftentimes have with pervious pavement is in the weather that we have up here, and the necessity at times to use sand and salt, that oftentimes the pervious pavement, while it's planned for and works in the early stages, becomes ineffective once it becomes chocked with sand. So in this instance, the ponds are taking care of that excess flow.
This is Amy. So you mentioned sand, and
Well,
I think
as you treat for ice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know that part of the problem in this area is the septics, and part of that problem with the septics and draining is that a lot of the area has sand. So, I have concerns about the drainage. If, like Walter was saying, the natural path, where does that lead? And I think that's, from my understanding, why water was provided, for us to tap into city water, those that could. So, I think the drainage is a concern, no doubt.
And John, these questions probably, if we're unable to get direct responses from Larry Pkwy, would be best provided to Central Hudson in writing, at which point he may be able to respond to those, or in another forum.
All right. Thank you, Don.
Yep.
There was another question regarding lighting in the gas village. I don't think no, there won't be any lighting there. There's a question about solar on the site. Perhaps on the roofs. I think we're purposely leaving the roofs alone for operational reasons, but the solar that we have on site will be ground mounted. It'll be used for both training and possibly for electric production to operate the site. In the future, we will look at that once the facility is completed to see about expanding our planned solar installations on the site. There was also a question about upgrading the electric system on Brigham Lane. I can't answer that question, but maybe we'll have to get back to the group on that. I'll have to check with our electrical engineers. Yeah. There will be an upgrade to the electric system on Eastern Parkway. So there'll be an enhancement to the local distribution system on at least this side of the Silpis. That will benefit the system on Brigham area also, but I don't know that there'll be a direct replacement of the current lines on Brigham. But there are planned replacements on Eastern Parkway.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Regis Obajeski. I'm from the town of Ulster, and it really has to do with water. I noticed that there are federal wetlands on the property, and I was looking at the rendering of the project, and in the, I guess, the lower right-hand corner, so that'll be the southeast, I think, southeast corner of the property, I saw what appeared to be water. Is that the federal wetlands there, or are those retention ponds that would be holding water, stormwater? That's part of my question. I certainly like the idea of the retention or the water impoundment, underground water impoundment of almost 3 million gallons of water. Which would, I guess, and Dan was speaking about this, eventually drain into the ground. So there's going to be evaporation and then natural drainage. I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, because there's a principal aquifer under the whole project. I'm not sure how far down that principal aquifer is. But just if your engineer, I guess that's Larry Pkwy, whom I know, by the way, just coincidentally, and I have a lot of faith in him. Whether or not the principal aquifer would be affected by the underground retention, that three or so million gallons, and also other stormwater drainage. And the last part of my question has to do with the ponds that you're referring to. We're not really speaking about I understand that federal wetlands are speaking about separate retention ponds. Is that correct?
Regis, Larry is in the room. so we're going to have him help address these questions. He did not hear, he just arrived in the room, so he did not hear what you had said, but I'll try to summarize it quickly, and if you want to elaborate some more, you can. But he had a question about federal wetlands to the, I guess, the northwest corner of the property, or southwest corner of the property? Southwest corner of the property. He noticed a depression in there. Is that the wetlands, or is that a retention pond? And also, in speaking about the ponds and allowing the runoff to seep into the ground and also evaporate, there may be a principal aquifer beneath the property, and how might that be affected by the stormwater management plan? Is that about right, Regis?
That's great. And hello, Larry.
Yeah. Do you want to bring him in on your computer, Dan? Oh, okay. Here you go. Here, I'll open. You want to look over here, Larry? My computer.
Okay. So was that a pretty good representation of the question that was just put forth? Hey, Regis. Regis, I can't hear you.
You can. You should be
Now
able to hear.
I can. How are you? Oh, Regis Obajeski.
Oh my goodness, you're good. Larry Pkwy.
Larry Pkwy, you're good too. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. So how's that principal aquifer, if anything, will be affected by the grand scheme of the hydrological engineering of this project?
So good questions. Good questions. Regis, you're familiar with the planning process, and you know that part of getting anything approved, we have to prepare an environmental assessment document, and that's one of the items that's required to be addressed is aquifers.
The 3991?
One of the main concerns with aquifers is landfills, and this obviously is not a landfill, to protect the quality. On the other end of that, one of the growing concerns is to continue to replenish the aquifers. So the stormwater regulations have evolved into not just controlling the rate of runoff from the site, but they progressed into requiring water quality treatment before anything is discharged from the site. And most recently, within the last 10 years, there are now runoff reduction requirements, which means that they want to have basically a net discharge increase from the site. So everything that was falling on the ground before and was seeping into the ground continues to do so that the aquifers do become replenished. So this site, so in answer to that question, it was considered. The site is not, the proposed development is not considered a potential hazard for water quality, because it's not a landfill. It's, we're not putting oil tanks or gasoline tanks in the ground. But we are required to provide water quality treatment in accordance with all the current stormwater regulations. And on the other side that we just discussed, that I just mentioned, we were required to meet the runoff reduction value to make sure that there's aquifer recharge happening. Is that a understandable answer?
Yeah, that's very understandable, Larry. I had a couple other water-related questions. One had to do with the federal wetlands.
Yes.
It's about two and a half acres or so, and there was, at least in your EAF, a diminishment of that 2.5 acres by about 1/5 of an acre. I guess to remove vegetation.
Right.
Right.
So we were required. We're required by the Army Corps of Engineers. It's a federal wetland, as you mentioned. We're required by the Army Corps of Engineers to mitigate that, and because it's over 1/10 of an acre. Anything under 1/10 of an acre would not require mitigation. So we actually have a wetland mitigation plan where we are constructing new wetlands to mitigate that. That plan was submitted to and approved by the Army Corps of Engineers, and it's happening immediately adjacent to the existing wetland, so that wetland will actually, post-construction, will actually grow a little bit in size.
I get you. Yeah. Well, that's pretty neat. Why would you run culverts through the wetlands?
The wetland actually well, I don't know if you want to say bisected. It was in the way of us getting the discharge to where it will ultimately exit the site. So we didn't want to discharge into the wetland because the Army Corps doesn't want you to flood the wetland.
Sure.
They don't. They want that to be like a wet area, but not a ponded area. They actually consider filling wetland. So we actually had to take a piece of the wetland and construct an outlet in there, so that area that we were disturbing, we're recreating, and then some in another area adjacent to the wetland.
Good, I get it. Yeah.
Okay. You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Hey, Larry, before you got on, this is Don. Before you got on, Kalen had asked a question, or maybe it was Lanny Walter. Someone had asked a question about pervious pavement, and I attempted to fill in for Larry Pkwy, which is a tall order, but I was explaining that with the treatment of the asphalt in the course of a winter season, that ultimately that pervious pavement would become chalked and would become somewhat ineffectual. So in fact, your ponds were sized accordingly to use that as impervious pavement.
So pervious pavement actually has two functions. It's actually a green infrastructure practice when it can do exactly what Regis and I were just talking about and get the runoff back into the ground. But what Don mentioned is exactly one of the biggest challenges is maintaining it. You can't use sand. You can only use salt. And you have issues with, if you've got aquifer, are you concerned about salt discharging to your aquifer? And it's also not as durable as regular pavement, and we're anticipating truck traffic because this is a training center that's going to use trucks. We like using porous pavements in like parking areas for like office buildings where they're relatively light vehicles, sometimes in new car dealerships where they're going to park new car inventory. But what we've done, the practice that we're using that would accomplish the same thing that porous pavement accomplishes is a combination of a bioretention area, which is basically a planted filter. It's got a media that is prescribed by the New York State DEC Stormwater Design Manual, and plantings as well in that media. And the water that sheds off of the paved areas is directed into these bioretention areas. It passes down through the media, through the plant and the media, and is picked up by pipes underneath, having been filtered. And then in turn, it will be discharged to a basin where the quantity control will occur. Hopefully that answered. You think that answered the question, Don?
I think so.
Any other water questions while we got Larry? Site questions?
Yeah. Raise hand.
You can go ahead. Who is this?
Hi, this is Kaylin. Can you unmute?
Hi, this is Kaylin. Can you unmute my?
We can hear you, Kaylin.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. So
I have 3 questions.
I have 3 questions.
Hold on a second.
Let's do one at a time.
Okay.
Kaylin, if you're on your phone,
So
can you mute your computer?
Yeah.
Let me mute.
Okay.
Because we're hearing you twice.
Okay. Is that better?
It is.
Perfect.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
You mentioned, Larry, that the site isn't a landfill and there's no hazard on that site. Has any testing actually been done of the soil, of the sand, of everything that's on that site?
What kind of testing? I mean, there were the whole site was probed and excavated for structural purposes, and there were never any contaminants encountered, and there's nothing of record on the site. So I'm not sure what kind of testing you mean.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Have samples been taken from the site to make sure that there actually isn't anything on that would be hazardous as runoff happens?
I would say no, because there was no indication that any testing should have been performed. I think the only time you would see something like that, some testing like that performed, would be if there was a red flag of some sort, that was brought up.
Okay. Second thing, landscape. Dan mentioned that there would be mostly lawn around the building. I don't want to speak for my neighbors, but I know one of the major concerns we have is chemicals and noise. So could that landscape turn into something simpler, rock gardens, water features that create white noise? Because we don't want to be listening to mowers all day for acres and acres of land, one. And two, if that lawn is being treated with Roundup or something bad like that, we don't want that to end up anywhere on our properties or into the SOPAs. So can you comment on that?
I can, and then I'm going to stop and ask Don to add, because Don can probably speak to the landscaping more than I can. Relative to noise, there's going to be a major noise barrier on the north end of the project, which you're probably already aware of. There's going to be a large berm constructed on the north end.
I'm on the west end, so that's where my concern is. I'm on the west side along the tracks.
Okay, so there's already an existing berm there that's created by the railroad track that will.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Okay.
I'm saying because you took out 28 acres of forest, we now have no sound buffer. So the train is a lot louder. The entire basin is a drum and echoes. Everything that happens on that site is a lot louder than it should be. So I'm very interested in a berm along the tracks because we need something to mitigate all the noise we're getting. So now if you have 28 acres of lawn to mow, that's going to definitely be an issue for us.
Well, I'm going to let Don talk a little bit more about the landscaping, but as far as the noise, you know, the removal of the trees, I'm struggling to understand how that would result in ultimately more noise coming to you folks. I mean, there's more noise now. There's no question. I mean, you've got huge equipment out there.
We've got equipment, we've got blasting, but we also hear 9W. We never used to hear 9W. The train is a lot louder because there's nothing for the sound to bounce off of. It just goes into that basin and then reverberates back. So it's definitely a problem. Okay,
so in response to that, there's probably going to be a lot more obstacles than the trees that were there when the site is done. I mean, the site's going to be developed. There's going to be buildings between you and 9W. There's going to be, there will be some landscaping. There's going to be grading that occurs. So, I mean, there will be vegetation. There is a landscaping plan. It's not just going to be lawn.
Could we see that? Could we see that in addition to this being posted, the presentation? Could we actually see the landscape plan?
I don't know. Do we have a copy of the landscape plan?
I think it's something that could probably be provided. It was the one that was approved by the municipality. It does include non-invasive species. So we aren't replanting a forest, but again, we're not putting anything in that will become an issue for the neighborhood. In terms of water features of the ability to mitigate sound by natural means, I think with what we have to do to control stormwater runoff, I don't think we can't create a waterfall on a flat site, and I don't think we can do anything with water to mitigate sound. But as Larry said, there will be a number of buildings that will be constructed between you and 9W that will assist in that. And they will be doing nothing more than the trees used to do in terms of mitigation of the sound of the train.
The problem, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yep, go on.
No, I'm just saying that getting into my third question, you mentioned truck traffic, Larry. So that's a lot of trucks coming through that we didn't used to have. That's now even closer to our property, in addition to potentially beeping because they don't have the white noise alarms that you guys have employed during construction phase. So there's going to be a lot of noise going on in that area over the next 4 years. And we would just like to be involved in making suggestions and requests that could potentially cost cut, be kinder to the environment, and somehow mitigate what we've lost. So that's why I'm just asking if you guys are open to that. We have neighbors that have concerns on each of these things, and I think we'd like to come back to you with some suggestions and proposals on things like this.
Hi, Kaylin. Yes, certainly. We're always willing to speak with you and hear your suggestions. You know, that's not going to change, of course.
So I didn't mean to interrupt Lanny or whoever was, or not Lanny, whoever was speaking before, but.
No, I think we're good. No, everything was fine.
Okay.
No worries. Are there any other questions from the group?
Is there natural gas there now?
It's going to be brought in. There's natural gas at the existing Central Hudson location now, yes. And of course, we're going to extend it into the site, you know, particularly for the gas village. The gas village will have a training scenario where trainees can practice on just compressed air with natural gas. We're going to be working with local emergency responders, fire departments, police departments, so they have a better understanding of what to do in an emergency response. The buildings will have electric too. There'll be overhead facilities, electric facilities on the site as well. Again, all for training purposes. It's like a scaled down mini community, you know, just specifically for training purposes. You know, when we say there are homes and apartment buildings on the site, they're not really large homes and apartment buildings. They're small shed-like structures used to simulate what a emergency responder may encounter when they come to the scene of an emergency. You know, let's say there's a house fire, and what do they do in regards to the utilities? What's the first thing they should do? What shouldn't they do? You know, these are the sort of things that we want to train not just our people on, but also local emergency responders. And we think that's a very important safety consideration. Right now, we don't have anything like that. And you know, we're finding that there's a need, and we do get called by local police departments, fire departments about these types of training opportunities. They really appreciate it, and it's not just going to be responders in Ulster County. You know, they may find it important in other parts of our service territory too. So it's going to be quite valuable for the community to have this facility there for us.
This is Amy. So I think the noise, Kaylin's mentioned it, and it really, like, has anybody from there gone around the perimeter and actually acted as if you lived here and listened to that for 8-10 hours a day? Yeah, like, it's unbelievable. I work from home. I can't even talk to people on the phone because of it. I live on Eastern Parkway. It is unrelenting. And you work on Saturdays. I can't even sit out on my porch on the weekend anymore. It's gone. So to Kaylin's point, it's hard to live with. Yeah, and I can't help but think that because we're not an affluent community and have $2 million houses and $3 million houses, that's why this was done here. Like, I feel like we're not that affluent of a community, and here, okay, let's do this here. Not saying you did that purposely, but I'm saying this is not the house that I came to live in, the country and with quiet. And this is absurd. This noise all day. It's just terrible. That's it. I know it's not going to change and you're going to work on it, but try living with it. You don't. You get to go home.
Yeah, and especially during this site preparation stage, it's probably the absolute worst. It's going to be, you know, in terms of the construction of this project. This is the very disruptive, noisy part of the project. So, yeah, it's a construction project. It's taking you know, vacant land and turning it into something.